Hello, hello. All right, another update on our 18 unit. Oh, this has been a deal. Definitely been a lot of pivoting and having to make adjustments and just kind of problem solve along the way. So we found a lender that will do the bridge financing. As a quick recap, when we went to do the inspection, it was not as they explained and not as they told us it was. And then when we got further into it in the AR, which is the accounts receivable, what was owed to them, there's a lot of tenants that were not paying rent. So part of our agreement was we would do a master lease because there were 6 units that they were already in process of getting out. Three of them already had the eviction filed, and the other 3 they were trying to do cash for keys. So the agreement was part of the agreement was we would do the master lease on those 6 units and they'd get them out as quickly as they can. They have gotten out, I think they're up to 4 other units now. I think 2 or 3 of those were on the master lease. 1 or 2 of them were not on the master lease. One of them, I'm glad they got out because they hadn't paid in a while. Then there's another unit that if they don't have out by the end of the year, they will add to the master lease. Because when we were going back and forth on the units, they had their 6. I had provided 3 more, and they said no to 2 of them. And then one of them, they said, we'll have to research this one. It doesn't look like she's paid rent in several months. So they started the process with her as well of trying to get her out. So if they don't have her out by the end of the year when we close, then that'll be a 7th unit on the master lease. But a couple of those master lease ones are already out. So as soon as a unit is vacant, then it comes back to us. So a couple of those are already vacant, so they won't be on the master lease because we'll have control of them at close. So it's sort of a double-edged sword. It's going to be more units that are empty up front, which will mean less income coming in, and we'll have to get those turned. But the good thing is we'll be able to get them rehabbed and rented quicker. So when I did my original underwriting, we were looking at it and assuming that throughout the first probably 12 to 18 months, every unit would be vacant for probably 3 or 4 months to rehab and then get it rented again. But we had that spread and plan to do that over 12 to 18 months, not a bunch of them all at once. So it'll be a little more holding costs or not. Originally it wasn't holding costs, but just lost rent just from the renovations. So it'll be more up front. We talked to our contractor and we're like, hey, it's looking like 9 or 10 of these units could be vacant when we close, and then another few within a few months. And they said, 2 to 3 months to get all those done is doable. As I said before, luckily the units they're not like gut jobs. 2 of them definitely need flooring because there's carpet in there. So if those units, I haven't checked, if those are units that are empty, then we'll definitely do new flooring. I know one of them had a tenant in there, and when we spoke to him, he'd been there for about 8 years, and I can't remember if he was one of the tenants who was paying, because there's only 3 tenants that were paying on time. So I know that was one of the units, and the other unit, I can't remember the situation with that one, but there are 2 that had carpet, so if those ones are vacant, then we'll get rid of the carpet and do flooring. But the bathrooms were good. They all have tile surrounds. All of the tubs were good. And the paint, most of them look like they'd been painted in the last few years, but the tenants just beat it up. So once it's cleaned, sometimes you look at a wall and whatever, and it looks like this is going to need to be painted, but it can actually just be cleaned. So once the tenants are out and we can get into the units and really see, okay, what do these need? Then we'll be able to see, okay, does this just need paint touch-ups, or do we need to just repaint the entire thing? Some of the units, 100%, will definitely need to be fully repainted. Some of them we might be able to get away with just paint touch-ups and just cleaning it. The kitchen, same thing. We are budgeting to replace, I think it's 12 or 14 kitchens, but we're hoping that we'll be able to salvage some of them and in doing that, like one thing that John and I were talking about last night was once we get into the units, if there's a kitchen that definitely, like, we're not going to spend time trying to fix broken, if the bottom of the cabinets are busted, if there's too many drawers that are busted, if there's too much repair, we're not going to spend time trying to repair it. But on those, we might pillage from it and be like, okay, if there's a cabinet front that we can take and there's a kitchen that's only missing a cabinet front and the rest of it's actually pretty solid and still good, then we'll do that. So we might be able to use parts from the kitchens that we're going to replace to fix up some of the other ones that might be in good condition but just missing a cabinet door. So we're hoping that we'll be able to turn the units, even if we have to replace all the kitchens. They're small kitchens, so they should be able to get turned pretty quickly. Talking to the contractor, he says we should be able to turn them. If it's kitchen, painting, and just, general cleanup, touch-up stuff, he goes, we should be able to do them in a week. And I said, okay, that's what I would expect. So, so we'll be going through that, but the lending has been, as I've said, has been definitely a, I'll say a struggle. It's just been a lot of work is probably a better way to put it. Just trying to find a lender, because once the lender that we were working with had reached out and said, hey, it looks like there's 4 evictions for this property. Are you aware of that? And we were aware of that. And I don't know how he found that information. Our attorney was like, where did he get this? Like, did you tell him this? And I said, no. I said, he just reached out to me and said that. And because of that, they're not going to qualify. It won't hit the DSCR. It already had 2 vacancies. Then you've got 4 evictions. So he goes, you're going to have to do bridge financing, which we were already in process of pivoting and talking to lenders. And he was one that said he could do bridge financing. But his bridge financing it just didn't seem like it was going to work. So we started reaching out to other lenders again, a second round, because we, when we were first getting under contract, we were reaching out to lenders, purchasing it as normal long-term commercial financing. And then we have to pivot to the bridge financing. Not all of them did bridge financing, or they didn't have good bridge financing. So I basically had to go back and do another round of just reaching out to dozens of lenders. And I was very upfront with the lenders on what the situation was after that, with the vacancies and things like that. One, it's bridge financing. That's the whole point of bridge financing, is because the properties are not stabilized. They're distressed assets, and they need time to get up to higher occupancy and be stabilized. So that is the point of bridge financing, but I still wanted to be upfront because I didn't want to get to the last week of December and then be like, wait a second, we just found out that there's evictions going on. Were you aware of this? Like, we don't deal with it if there's evictions or whatever the situation. So I was very upfront. Other people may not have been, to try and like, okay, let's just get this done, and this might cause issues, so we don't want to, share too much information. I was more concerned that if they found out further in the process, we wouldn't be able to close in time. So I was very upfront when I sent my emails and talked to people. This is the situation. This is why we need bridge financing. We have a master lease, blah, blah, blah. So we actually are working with the lender who currently has the mortgages with the seller. So he was able to offer us the best. Basically, he'd been referred to us prior. His rates were higher than what we were getting quoted from other people, which is why we didn't go with him for the commercial long-term financing. But we went back to him and asked him if he did bridge financing. He says yes. And because they do things in-house, I said, we have to close by end of the year. Like, that is priority. And I said, the appraisal is what I've talked to a bunch of other lenders, and they said they in-house would be able to do it, but they don't know if they get the appraisal in time. I said, are you sure you'd be able to get the appraisal in time? And they said, we have a preferred appraiser. We've already talked to him. He'll have it back to us by the end of next week. So I was like, kind of close, man. Kind of close. So they're looking to close December 30th, maybe the 31st. I'm hoping it's the 30th just to give us a day of breathing. But yeah, I mean, these last few days over the weekend, I was sending out a lot of emails, texts, things like that, to a bunch of lenders, trying to posting online. Some of you may have seen my posts on Facebook and certain groups, but trying to find a bridge lender. So, and there's a lot of people we talked to that didn't do bridge financing or only did it in certain circumstances, or wouldn't have been able to close by the end of the year. So when you're on this much of a time crunch and trying to push to close in such a short amount of time, it does limit us on our options. For the bridge financing, though, overall, most of the people were similar terms. You're 11-12% for bridge financing. I don't know if anyone was one. I think we're either 1 or 1.5 points. One lender we talked to was like 3.25 points. So your points definitely, from what I saw, was probably the biggest variance. But I also did analysis of looking at, okay, this one of them was at 11%, one of them was 12%. And the one at 11% had 3.25 points for closing. And then the 12% one had, I think it was 1 or 1.5 points. But when I compared to see, okay, where's the break even? Like, is there a point where these basically kind of become fairly the same? Because initially you'd think, oh, 3.25 points, like, okay, that's way more upfront. But when it's a percent less, where does it start to become like, okay, these are actually pretty even? And I think it was like 11 or 12 months, they would have been fairly close. At 8 months, there was about a $20,000 difference. So the one with the 1 point and 12% interest was overall about $20,000 less. So that's taking, what would my payment be for 8 months plus what my closing costs are, and what's the total? And I was looking at it like by month. Okay, at what point do they become, is the total cost about the same? Those points plus my payments. So that's something to look at too if you're looking for financing, for bridge financing. Even though somebody has higher points, if they're a lower interest rate, take the few minutes to just do that little spreadsheet and little break even to see, okay, they're higher points up front. But if this is a 12 or 18 month project, am I actually better off because it's a lower interest rate? This expecting to be a shorter time frame, the guy with the 1 point or 1.5 points and the 12% was a better option. So, but still pretty close. I mean, 20,000 is still 20,000. I'd rather not pay an additional 20,000. But it for $1.5 million, $1.5 million loan, to me, the 20,000 was like, okay, that's not, yes, I'd rather save 20,000, but when you're seeing, the closing costs, whatever they were, of like 40 something thousand compared to like 10 or 15,000, I can't remember what it was exactly. And you're seeing the difference, like, oh man, okay. So, but yeah, so we found the lender. I don't even know how many times, probably 5 or 6 times in my emails yesterday. Almost every email I ended my email with, but we can close by year end. And they seem very confident. As I said, they were referred to us actually by multiple people and told that, he can perform. So we are hoping that he does. We are hoping it all comes together. And we will definitely hit the ground running on this one. We'll talk to our contractor on what day they can start. And John and I will be out there with either that day or the day before. I want to be out there when they start and be able to just get into the unit, see them. Because we want to go through with them. I think I've said this in another video, just what our expectations of what the units will look like, and also talk to our property manager on what do we need to do. We want to make sure we're getting the strongest rents we can. Do we need to do new kitchens, or are these kitchens that are still in good shape? Will these still be able to warrant, $1,800 a month, or do we have to do new kitchens to get that? So talking to the property manager and knowing that this is a new market for us, so we will we've done our own research, obviously, but we will also rely on our property manager on what he thinks we should do as far as renovations. So a good property manager can help you in that way of giving guidance on if you do these types of finishes or this, new kitchens, new cabinets, whatever it is, they should be able to help you and guide you on, okay, in this area, it doesn't make a difference. Or yes, you will definitely be able to get higher rents if you do new cabinets opposed to these. So that is something that we will talk to our property manager on, have him meet us there as well so we can go over everything and just make sure everyone's on the same track. As I said, it's pretty much just the kitchens. The flooring is new LVP flooring. The bathrooms are all good. So it's really just the kitchens that we have to worry about as far as like what we do for rehab, if we do new kitchens or if we are able to salvage some of the ones that are there. So obviously we'd like to spend as little money as possible, but we also want to make sure that we have nice units, that the kitchens are good, and we don't want to be renting, dilapidated kitchens where drawers are broken and cabinets are falling off and the bottoms of your cabinets are busted up. Like that's not the type of landlord we are. We want to provide our tenants nice, clean, fully functioning units. So, the last few days in insurance. So I've also been trying to figure out insurance, and insurance has been very, very difficult this year. Talking to a lot of other investors, talking to insurance brokers. Our current insurance guy is not licensed in Illinois, so he's connected me with a couple people. The first person he connected me with wasn't responding to me, and then he was able to get hold of him, and he called me and says, "Hey, I'm really sorry." He goes, but I talked to him, and he said he was hoping to be able to help you. He goes, but he is just so swamped, like he can't take any more business. Another insurance company, they would want some fixes done before they would insure. So they would insure it, but they would not be able to do it by year end because there's fixes that they would want done. And they're the ones that insure it now, which I always find interesting. It's like, you don't require that now, but that's a whole other. But yeah, so we do have a couple quotes from insurance companies, and insurance it's very expensive. So right now, their insurance is, I think, $8,300 or $8,500. And I underwrote, I think I had $15,000. And one of the quotes I got was like, two of the quotes I got were 16.1 and one was like 16.5. So it is more than I had in the original underwriting. So it'll be $100 or $200 more a month. There's still, I think, 2 more insurance companies that I'm waiting to hear from, but I've heard from 3. 2 of them are the low mid 16s. One of them was just over 19,000. And then it's either 2 or 3 more insurance companies I'm waiting to hear from. But insurance, talking to insurance brokers, they said they've seen more deals fall through because they couldn't get insurance. Talking to other investors, they may not have gotten insurance quotes or not gotten like really good solid ones, or when they bought it, a year ago, and now their insurance is renewing and their insurance is 2-3xing. Sometimes to the point where the deal no longer makes sense, or to the point where any profit they had is now, they're basically break even. So insurance has been really difficult for investors in getting insurance on properties. So that's still something that I'm hoping that we will be able to get, and that's not going to be a deal breaker for us. So it may come to, okay, whoever can get it done by the end of the year, just so we can close and have insurance. And even if it's like stupid expensive, then once we get the rehab done, then we get another insurance company and cancel out the one that we had. So as long as we can get something by the end of the year, I know once we do the rehab and do those fixes, like the one insurance company, they said once there's some fixes done, we would take care of it. But so the insurance, still working on that, and the lending, we do have the lender, and fingers crossed we can get it done by year end. So it's been a lot of work these last week, just trying to reach out to lenders, trying to reach out to insurance companies and get all that taken care of, and find a lender and find an insurance carrier. So, yeah, I'm hoping tomorrow I was hoping to have it today. We got the term sheet today from the lender. Everything looked good. So I was hoping today, but it should be tomorrow. We'll have some other paperwork from them, have information on the appraisal. And then when they do the appraisal, we're also going to see if our contractor can meet them there, because they would like to walk through some of the units one more time just to see it for a second time. Now that we're getting closer to being ready for the project to start, they want to go through it again too and just make sure, okay, everything's good, take some measurements, do what they have to do, and be able to hit the ground running in a few weeks once we close. So the appraisal, as I said, hoping to get a date on that soon, as in like I was hoping today, so hopefully tomorrow, and then just keep going from there. We're just pushing as fast as we can. As soon as I'm getting an email or a text message, I'm responding immediately, sending them what they need, giving them their paperwork. And I don't want, anytime you're working with a lender, insurance, anything like that, you want to be prompt on sending paperwork. You want to be prompt on giving them answers, giving them what they need. If you are taking days to respond or not sending them the complete information, the easier you make it for them and the more professional you come off, the more organized you come off, it's just going to make things easier and it's just going to make things better. If they're having to constantly ask you for stuff, or this is wrong, or this isn't right, whatever, it doesn't reflect well. So if you are quick on responding, giving them what they need, just being professional and being very attentive and responding quickly, it only helps your cause. So I was like a bit of a psycho yesterday because I knew he was like requesting things. So I was trying to do other things, but just kept checking. It's like, okay, I know he's gonna need something. And like, so as soon as he was emailing, I was like, here you go. Do you have to be that anal on things? Normally not. In our situation, where literally every day matters because we're in such a tight timeline, yes, even a few hours can build up and delay things. So I was like psycho, like refresh. Okay, I know he's emailing me soon. I know I'm gonna need something. So that was pretty much my day the last couple of days, just constantly, okay, I know he needs stuff. I always, even when we're not in this much of a time crunch, I still try and respond same day. I still want to get back to my lenders and back to insurance people as quickly as possible. So anytime we're under contract in a property, anytime we're going through the due diligence, I try and be very responsive. Not quite like I have been the last couple of days, but we really want to close by year end to save on taxes, and I will be very bummed if we close like January 2nd. I'd probably be super pissed. So we are hoping that this will get off. He said December 30th or 31st they'll be able to close. So that's what we're going on, and day by day. So hopefully we'll get the appraisal stuff tomorrow and just keep moving forward. So if there's anything that I touched on that you have questions on or want me to go into more detail, or if there's something I haven't discussed yet that you want me to, let me know. As I said, once we close and we have our sort of final numbers, because it's the bridge loan, I'll kind of go over those in more detail. And we will be losing money every month because we don't have the income, and that'll be just part of our holding costs. I think it's around 100. I don't want to say anything because I'm not sure. I have to look and see what we have expected for holding costs. And I know the rehab we have budgeted right around $200,000. That includes about $48,000 for a roof if we have to do the roof. The roof I don't think is going to cost that much. I think it'll be closer to probably 20-something thousand. But if they end up having to tear off, and if they have to do all new plywood and stuff for the roof, it could end up getting closer to 50. So I'm hoping our $200,000 rehab budget, I know we could spend that because we have a list of, so we have our priority things. So obviously getting them cleaned, painted or touched up, getting the kitchens done, and doing some work on the porches. Those are like the definites. We definitely need to do that. And then there's a few small things like the gutters. They don't divert away from the foundation. They just go right in the foundation. So we need, get a few extensions for them. I mean, that's probably something that literally I'm probably going to do while we're out there. So there's those items that are the must-dos, and then there's things that we would like to do. So we know that right now it's on a boiler. All 3 buildings are on a boiler. We'd like to get a quote to find out what it would cost to put in mini splits or switch it over to electric heat, basically. So we are going to get quotes on that and find out, okay, if we wanted to put mini splits in these, what would that cost us? Or just switch over to electric baseboard heat. What would that cost to get that converted? Because that would be a huge money saver, being able to not have to pay for that much gas, because the gas boiler is very expensive to operate. Then the tenants right now don't have, they can open and close vents or something. I can't remember exactly what it is, but right now, like, we will be paying the oil bill, so there's no motivation for tenants to, not be stupid with heat. And we've absolutely gone to our properties in the winter. They were paying, so I'm like, do what you want to do. But even when they're paying, still, like, windows open, heat on, I'm like, what are you doing? But if we can, we're just been looking at the P&L and how can we save money. Converting to electric baseboard heat where the tenants can put it in their name is definitely a way for us to be able to save money and give the tenants control over their heat. Also, what was the other thing? Oh, the trash. So on their P&L, their trash, they were paying, God, I think it was like $900 or $1,000 a month for trash. And I'm just thinking, that seems crazy expensive. So I called around to dumpster companies because they have dumpsters. And so one of the companies, and a few of them are similar, but the one company that we'll probably go with, because they're all, I don't know how their trash is so expensive. Because I talked to a woman, and for the largest dumpster that they have, and she said, well, we looked at pictures, she goes, and they don't have these big dumpsters, they have all the small ones. She goes, one, like, what's the situation there? And I told her, like, each building's individually owned and blah, blah, blah. So I said, what would be your most expensive dumpster for this place, with assuming a weekly pickup? So it was only like $300 and something for their biggest dumpster. And I can't remember how, I'd have to do the math in my head, but I think it was 6 or 7, every unit would have to have 6 or 7 bags of trash a week. So that would basically be every day they'd have to have a bag of trash to fill that up. And even if they do have that, or it's Christmas time and you have extra, it was like $100 or $150 for them to come and do a pickup out of their normal weekly pickup. So we're gonna do that and switch that trash over for that. And I want to get a hold of the other owners and be like, hey, why don't we just get a few of these, because we might be able to save, like, you might be able to save money as well. But if we all pitch in and do this, like, that's where, like, the HOA comes in, where, each individual owner is not having to worry about who's going to do the trash and who's going to do the snow removal and the lawn care. HOAs, a lot of times, there are HOAs in situations like this to cover all of that. This building doesn't have that, this property, even though it seems like a complex that would. It does not. So each owner is responsible for their own stuff. So we've just been looking at, okay, what expense seems high and how can we save money? Another one, they have $800. It was like $787 or something like that of contract services that we still aren't quite sure what that is. But if that's cleaning, it's like, okay, if they're having somebody come and clean the hallways of each building, once a week, I can see that that's probably how much that could be. Would you need to clean them that often? We're not sure. So that's going to be, there's a couple expenses. It'll be, okay, what do we need? What do we need to do? How often does it need to get cleaned? Things like that. So we definitely want to make sure the hallways and that shared space stays clean and stays looking nice. Another thing that I have not factored in, because I have to find out how many there are, is there's storage. They're like storage lockers on the main floor, the first floor of each building. So when we get back into them, right now they're just giving them to the tenants if they want them. We used to do that, and then the tenants fill it with a bunch of crap and then leave it, and then we're responsible to get rid of it. So now we charge the tenants. So if there's storage, we will charge a storage fee, and then at least that way, when they leave crap and we have to pay to get rid of it, we've at least been collecting money, some income on that, and that'll, kind of pay for that. So there is the storage lockers on the first floor that we need to find out who, if anyone's using them, and then just kind of get locks on them so people can't put stuff in them. And then if somebody wants to rent one, we can take our lock off and they can put their lock on. But that's another area that we haven't factored in for income because I don't expect it to be very much. So it's like, okay, if we get that, it might be a few $100 a month. So yeah. So that is where we're at, and I will keep you updated. But yeah, if you have any other questions, want me to go into detail on anything, let me know, and I will give you guys an update as we continue through this process.